first speaker is Paul Byers from WQED in Pittsburgh, and here he is.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Good morning, everybody. Can I sit there and do this? Okay, good. Like Jim said, I'm Paul Byers. I'm the Director of Engineering at WQED here in Pittsburgh. For those of you from Pittsburgh, you probably know WQED. For those not, and for those online, WQED is the public broadcast station, a local public broadcast station that serves the tri-state area. This is a little bit off topic for what you guys usually discuss, but I was asked to make a presentation on a TV show that we did, actually turned into 2 TV shows called Pittsburgh from the Air. We produced over the last couple of years, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the technical details of how we made that show. And I think of particular interest to this group is the and you'll see a little video that I'm going to show first, is the gyroscopically stabilized platform that mounts right below the camera. And okay, thanks, Jim. Sorry, we're just getting some of the bugs worked out here. Now I've got to find my presentation. Just give me 1 second here. Okay, here it goes. About an 8-minute clip.
I'm Stephen Stept. I'm producing and directing Pittsburgh from the Air. Can we try that shot again? So it's all about the sun staying out. Today is July 4th. What we're hoping is, right now the sky is in its sort of Pittsburgh overcast mode, which is a little challenging when you're trying to shoot from a helicopter.
The only way we can do is we get a long pit approach.
Cherokee, the pilot, he has learned not only to fly the helicopter, but he also has been a cameraman.
Just as critical as Travis's lens, so is my window, so you can see where I'm going. So my name is Cherokee Walker, and part of a family business started by my father of 40 years, which is Cherokee Helicopter Service. Part of something very special to me, which was started by my father, Ken. And after I was born, he named the business Cherokee Helicopter Service. He's been in the industry over 40 years. It all started with me washing windows at a very young age. He started taking me while he was doing a lot of filming and for TV news. I was able to build flight time very young, and was also a camera operator with him, and that's how it transitioned for me to be blessed to get an incredible opportunity. You know, we're flying an A-Star helicopter, and the A-Stars are more preferred for film production, and that's because of its extreme maneuverability, a lot of power to the aircraft, very stable platform. Works out great whether you're flying any camera system. In this regard, we're flying a Cineflex V14. Which is one of the best systems in the industry.
My name is Travis McMunn, and I am an aerial camera DP operator, whatever you'd like to say. Here we have the Cineflex gyro-stabilized camera system. It uses basically a microprocessor to stabilize the camera system. And it uses 5 axes, and when I mean 5 axes is it floats in an inner gimbal, which is pan and tilt, and then you have your outers. You have roll, pan, and tilt on the outside of it. Here, basically, which is a glorified Atari controller to a point, you have all your camera controls. This is basically how you control the camera itself.
We might try to do it by starting out from here. My job is to figure out different places, with help from everybody I know, where to go to film unique and common places throughout western Pennsylvania. We're trying to hit the counties around the city itself, around Allegheny County, to give a sense to our viewership where they live and how it looks from above.
Local traffic helicopter 274 chuds as it lifted Monroeville transitioning downtown Washington County. Local traffic. We're doing some film work. We'd like to start at Kennywood on station first. Look at that. Did you need to climb up there? Yeah, climb a little bit. It's great to work in an area where you've seen a lot of change, and we've done a lot of transition from what was old the steel industry along the Mon River to what is now the waterfront. So those transitions from beauty shots are really cool.
There was one shot that stuck out in my mind. We found a bald eagle up over Keystone Lake, which is in Armstrong County. I knew there was a nest up there, but I didn't think we'd see it that day, so I thought that was pretty cool. We were basically just flying around, and we looked out the window. I can't remember if it was Cherokee or I. We're just like, there's guys down there. They have a little practice track. So we're like, we'll go down land, talk to them, see if they're cool with us flying around, getting close and low, and they were.
We were up at Moraine, and Moraine had some beautiful things going on with the sailboats and things, and just happened to hear on the radio a gentleman that's been flying a long time who was out in his Cub, and we coordinated on the radio, and he has his own private airstrip just by Moraine there, right by Lake Arthur. So we coordinated the shot, and it just was great timing, and he was really comfortable with us getting close to him, and we had a safety briefing prior to, and then we landed and talked to him further about doing some more projects later on that will probably be part of the show with landing on the river and things. But it just was really, really cool how that worked out, and it was fun to get to do that. A lot of the barge operators have been comfortable with us through the years doing some things. And once we feel that we get a thumbs up and that we can coordinate that safely, and everything we've done is coordinated through the FAA in the office with our production manual and our waiver, which is all part of our operation. That actually was a fortunate moment. Once we coordinated that he was comfortable, we were able to come off, and kind of entrail him, off his tail and then come off the side. And the timing just again worked out great. It wasn't anything that was majestically coordinated. It was just he happened to hit the right place at the right time, and then we were able to reveal the city and the point.
Jamie Peck. I'm a composer. Pittsburgh from the air. A lot of beautiful footage. A lot of music. Almost got her. It's just a process, It's one of those things. Turning that switch on is the hardest part about composing, because sometimes I'm one of these guys who will walk away for a while and come back and come, in and out, and go out into the yard and just take a breather and that sort of thing. And sometimes when you're dealing with this much music, of really forging ahead, and that's kind of what you got to kind of keep focused on. I hope that they can hear the music and say, wow, that's really cool. That's something they'd like to listen to. On a bigger scope, I'm hopeful that it represents Pittsburgh.
What I hope people get from this program is a real appreciation for what Western Pennsylvania has.
There we go. All right, so it's a little tough to, in 20 minutes, to tell you what it took us 2 years to figure out how to make this movie. But I picked three main points to focus on: the image quality, which you really can't see the full quality of it on the screen in the high definition. We did record it on Blu-ray disc, so it is available. If you haven't seen it broadcast on the Blu-ray, it really looks spectacular on a big HD screen like this. So the image quality, the stabilization and control, which is you saw a little bit of there with the Cineflex unit, and then of course the aircraft and the crew. And I'm just going to focus on the production crew here, not on the. You saw a little bit of Jamie Peck, the musician who did all original composed music for the show, but this is just on the production side because we're short on time here. So the image quality, of course, we did it in high definition, and the high definition, there are actually a couple different flavors of high definition, which we'll talk about. Using a Sony 1500 camera and a Fujinon and Canon are the two main companies that make lenses for broadcast television cameras. So in this case, we used the Fujinon, and we'll talk a little bit of detail about all that stuff. So the 1920 by 1080 HD standard definition is generally should step back a little bit. 1920 refers to the number of pixels per line, and 1080 are the number of lines of resolution, horizontal lines. So across each line of resolution, you have 1920 pixels, pixel being the smallest unit that makes up a video frame, and then 1080 lines of resolution. Standard definition TV, and we're kind of looking at this, and standard def is 480 lines, so you can see the difference there in the size. 720 progressive is also a form of high definition that uses, instead of interlace scanning, it uses progressive scanning, sort of like a computer screen, but it uses less horizontal lines of resolution. It's more popular for use in sports and high motion kinds of applications. But our choice was the 1080i, or 1080 interlaced. There's also a 1080p, which is what Blu-ray uses, and some other high definition graphic formats. And then, of course, 16 by 9 aspect ratio. What you're seeing there with the black bars on either side of the screen is actually a 4 by 3 image. Our movie would utilize the full width of the screen, which is 16 units wide, 9 units high, and hence the 16 by 9. Here you can see, hopefully you can see it's a little bit small, but that's the difference. The yellow box is the 480i, and that's the amount of resolution you would get on a standard def image. The blue box is 720, and the orange box is 1080. So you can see 6 times the amount of resolution in a high definition image over a standard definition image. The Sony 1500 camera is pretty much the de facto standard in the broadcast industry for acquiring high definition footage. It uses no tubes anymore in any of the digital cameras. They use solid state pickup devices. In this case, they use 3 CCD 2/3 inch. There's 1/2 inch and 2/3 inch. 2/3 gives you more dynamic range in the pickup. The prism system, which is basically a block that filters the light into the 3 red, green, and blue components at f1.4, lets a good bit of light to hit each one of those CCDs. And then, of course, 1,000 lines. The active picture area is 1,000 lines. The other 80 lines are made up in payload that are off the screen, you can't see. And there's metadata embedded in those lines, but basically 1,000 lines of resolution. The Fujinon lens, 42 by 9.7 is the focal length. So it's 9.7 millimeter is the wide end, and 410 millimeter is the telescopic end. So it is like a small telescope with 42 times zoom capability. And then it also has what's called a 2 times extender, which is another piece of glass that can be brought into play to make it 84 times the range. So you can get, from the air, you can get really close to something on the ground with that length of the lens. Okay, now the stabilization and control. We've got the gimbals, which are part of the Cineflex, and I'll show you a picture of that in a minute. the auxiliary control box, which is basically the guts of the camera that sits inside the ship, the laptop controller, and you saw pictures of that in the video, but I'll show you some more pictures here in a second. The gimbal is basically this unit called the Cineflex V14. It's made by a company called Axis Control Systems, and they were recently acquired by General Dynamics, who's a defense contractor in the United States. They make missile guidance systems, and the software in the Cineflex is the same as what's used in missile guidance systems. So the unit is embargoed for sale outside of this country because it's got some proprietary software inside of it. It rotates on 5 axes, and you say, well, how can there be 5 different axes? Well, there's 2 sets of gimbals, one inner, one outer. So you have a pan and tilt on the inner and a pan and a tilt and rotate on the outer. So you can get a lot of, basically 360 degrees on pretty much any axis to get the images from the air. It also has low and high frequency dampers because there's lots of noise generated from the blades and the engine on the helicopter. So to keep that vibration from getting into the image, there's electronic dampers, and I'll show you a picture of that here in a second. I wish my laser pointer worked, but it doesn't work on this kind of a screen. So the top round thing with the holes in it there is the low frequency damper. It takes the low frequency vibrations out. And then on the sides where it says ACS Cineflex, there's high frequency dampers in there. The turret, where you can see the barrel where the lens is sticking out, there's actually another turret inside of that, and that's the inner gimbal. The outer gimbal is the part you can see there. And then tucked underneath the low frequency damper are the 2 gyroscopic controls that keep the thing running smooth. So they actually work on electromagnets that through the microprocessor can apply voltages to keep the platform absolutely rock solid. So it really is an unbelievable image that it generates. The auxiliary control box, as I mentioned, consists of the camera control unit, which again I'll show you a picture of it in a minute. It has all the in and out cabling for the HD and SDI images to the monitors and to and from the camera and to the recording device, and then all the cabling from the camera. This is a picture of it. The big cable there on the right is the piece of what's called triax cable that feeds from the camera, which is in the Cineflex housing. Basically, it's just a lens and a prism inside that housing, and then everything feeds back to this box, which generates the images. The other cabling there feeds to the blue cables feed to the monitors. The helicopter pilot has a monitor right in front of him, and then the camera operator has a video monitor, so he can see what he's shooting at. And then the other cabling is power. It all runs off a 24-volt DC power, and the laptop computer and a couple ancillary cables for control. So the laptop controller allows the operator to zoom, focus, pan, tilt, color balance, to do all the things that are necessary to make the picture look good and get it into focus and so on. And also the microprocessor control for the gyroscope. Here's a picture of that, and basically literally just sits on his lap. The little joystick controller on the right there allows him to pan, tilt, zoom, focus, and then the other knobs are for color correction, video level, and so on. The smaller screen on the left is actually his digital video recorder, so you can see that there's an image being recorded there, and that all the images coming from the camera get recorded on a digital disc, or there's actually even a way through a RF connector to transmit images live to a receiver on the ground. In this case, we recorded directly onto the disc for all the images we shot for the shows. Okay, the aircraft and the crew. I think you heard Cherokee mention it's an A-Star AS-350 helicopter, we picked a helicopter versus a fixed wing. We could have used a fixed wing airplane, but the helicopter is much more maneuverability and also much more power to get the shots that we really wanted to get. Then obviously the pilot and the videographer make up the other 2 pieces of the integral pieces of the crew. The helicopter It only weighs 2,500 pounds. It's empty, but 732 horsepower. So that's a lot of power for a fairly light aircraft. The maximum airspeed is 152 knots, which is about 176 miles an hour. Most of the shots were much slower than that, 80 knots or less, and some even hovering to get the shots that we wanted. There's a picture of the ship in flight, kind of a neat shot, and that has a slightly different rig on it. That's an older rig, not a Cineflex, but the nose mount is preferable to under the belly or something, because you can see where you're going and get the shot that you're kind of visually see what you're shooting for. There's a picture of Cherokee as a younger guy. He's still only in his 40s, but he's a local guy. His company, Cherokee Helicopters, based right here in Ford City, Pennsylvania, and he's been flying since he was about 10 years old, and he's now probably in his early 40s, mid 40s, and he's one of the premier aerial photographer pilots in the country. He's in demand for almost any Hollywood movie you see that has aerials in it. If you look at the credits, you'll see Cherokee Helicopter. So we were fortunate to be able to have him right here in town and be able to shoot our movie for us. And then the videographer Travis McMunn, you saw him in the video as well, is also, the two of them work together as a team, so they pretty much know each other. If Cherokee sees a shot and he starts flying down and to the left, Travis knows where he's going, so he's able to frame the shot up and keep it in focus and so on. So that's, I think I made it within my time limit, hopefully. And if anybody has any questions or comments, I'd be willing and happy to answer them right now.
How long was the final video?
It was about, there actually turned out to be two. We shot over all 4 seasons. The first one we shot in fall and winter, and the second one we shot in spring and summer. So each one was about an hour for the broadcast length. On the Blu-ray and the DVD, there's some bonus footage that make it about an hour and a half each. But it was, we had more video than we could fit into the show. So it's a lot of pretty stuff to pick out, and it was all over. It wasn't just Pittsburgh; it was all over Western Pennsylvania.
How much footage did you have to?
Probably we went up. I think for the 2 shows we were up in the air six flying days, and each flying day you could, if you're lucky, you could get 4 or 5 hours of good light if you left early in the morning and went until evening. So we probably ended up with maybe a total of 30 hours worth of footage, which is not a lot to make 2-hour-long movies. But like I said, almost all of it was good stuff that we could use.
Is this like a state tourism funded operation?
Well, we were in some company meetings a few years ago trying to think of a good local production to make that would people would like to watch, and we came up with this aerial type show, and we got it funded by a couple of local corporations, and it ended up being one of the more popular shows we've ever done. I think we sold 20,000 DVDs and about 2,000 Blu-ray discs on it. So it was, it turned out to be a good revenue-generating product for us, and also, we get so many calls and emails and letters from people saying, I've sent this to my relatives, and I think one of the guys I talked to here said he sent a couple copies to his relatives in North Carolina, and people all over just really have enjoyed it.
Well, I found it interesting that you did color balance or color corrections in real time. And I'm assuming you still did some.
Well, we had intensive. I didn't even speak about the post-production on this, but we had intensive color correction that had to be done in the edit room, because a lot of times the light just wasn't that good. I mean, when it's flat and overcast and the sun's directly overhead, it just looks kind of boring. So if you looked at a comparison between the original video and what ended up in the movie, it's dramatically different, because we were able to put color correction in to make the scenery really pop and the greens be really lush and so on. Where even though there's only so much they could do when they're in the live mode, but we have a lot more control of it when we get it into the edit room. So a lot of time we spend in color correcting the final product to make it look as good as it did. All right, well, thank you for your attention, everyone, and I appreciate the time.